A 2-year-old boy died last night after accidentally shooting himself in the head in his home in North Texas. Police say the boy, who's named Kinsler Allen Davis, he found a handgun inside a bedroom in his home. His father was in another room at the home at the time. The wounded boy was transported to the hospital where he later died. Earlier this week, it was a 5-year-old boy who accidentally shot his brother, his 7-year-old brother, with a rifle. That happened in Houston, Texas. The two boys were taking a bath when the 5-year-old got out of the tub, found the .22 rifle, and shot his brother. Police say it happened when the mother stepped away for just a moment. The 7-year-old boy who was shot was not killed. He was wounded. He's recovering. Child Protective Services says that the 5-year-old who did the shooting has been sent away from the home for now to stay with his uncle. In Tampa, Florida, on Tuesday night, it was a 3-year-old boy, a boy named Jadarius Spites. He found a gun in a backpack in his home and shot himself. He died at the scene. Authorities say his uncle had purchased a 9mm handgun at a gun shop and then left it in his backpack in the bedroom that he shared with his nephew. The uncle was arrested that night. He was charged with culpable negligence, according to authorities. He does hold a concealed weapons permit and owned the gun legally. This weekend, it was a 6-year-old child who was shot in the chest by her 13-year-old brother. The sheriff's office said the kids were home alone when they found a handgun. Authorities are treating that shooting as accidental, but the investigation continues. Last week, it was a 5-year-old boy in southern Kentucky who was playing with a .22 caliber rifle that was his, that he had been given as a gift. He was 5 years old. His gun was loaded, and he shot and killed his 2-year-old sister. The NRA line forever now, of course, is that guns don't kill people, people kill people. The implication, of course, is that guns aren't the problem, it's bad people who are the problem. It is hard to see how that applies when the shooter is 5 years old in Kentucky or Texas, or when the shooter is 3 years old in Florida. The answer to this cannot be that this is a bad person with a gun who needs to be stopped by a good person with a gun. These slogans do not help us here. It's actually surprisingly hard to tell if these last few days, these headlines of these last few days, represent a lot of gun violence involving American kids, relatively speaking. Is this an unusually large number of incidents like this? It is hard to chase the numbers and figure it out, if this rash of headlines is unusual or if this really just is normal for us now. It is possible that this is normal, and the only reason all these headlines seem like a lot is that we're paying more attention than we usually do. And if it is that we are paying more attention than we usually do, we are paying that attention because of Newtown. The Newtown Elementary School shooting was in December. Part of the reason it still means that we are paying more attention to gun crimes and to the relationship between kids and gun crimes is because the families of Newtown are not letting us stop. Francine Wheeler, who lost her 6-year-old son Ben in Newtown, delivering the president's weekly address, grieving and pleading very publicly for the Senate to pass reforms. Mark Barden, who lost his 7-year-old son Daniel in Newtown, introducing President Obama the day the Senate voted to reject background checks. The first federal political battle on this issue was lost that day last month to a Republican filibuster. But the people who led that battle are still leading, and they are the ones who are making it so clear right now that that really was just the first battle and that this is not done. Joining us tonight for the interview is Mark Barden. His 7-year-old son Daniel was a first grader at Sandy Hook Elementary School. He was one of the 20 kids and 6 adults who were lost there on December 14th. Mr. Barden is now a member of the Sandy Hook Promise. Mark Barden, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Rachel.
I know that you were very involved in lobbying the Connecticut legislature to pass the reforms that they did. Yeah. We all saw you pledging not to give up at the federal level. Right. I know you were in Delaware yesterday, I've been told. Where else have you been working? What has it been like to be talking to legislators about such a personal loss?
It's interesting to find that these they're just people like us. They're just regular folks. They're moms and dads and grandparents. They understand this. I mean, they know what happened here. So I find I scratch my head where they can say no to these common sense solutions. And when I say common sense, this is just about firearm responsibility and safety. It's not infringing on anyone's Second Amendment rights. And if you think it does, then you haven't read the bill. You
said with such eloquence and drama, actually, after the Senate made that first after the background checks bill fell to that Senate filibuster, that this was not over, that this was just the beginning, that you're not going anywhere. Right. How does that manifest? What happens next?
Well, if we have to go state by state, we will. Like you said, we've been to Delaware, we've been to New Jersey, we were in Connecticut, and we go on our own free will. We go because we think we can make a difference. We can put a face on this tragedy. And if our support and encouragement can help get some of these responsible legislation across the finish line, then that's what we'll do. And we're not going to give up at the federal level either.
You say we go on our own free will. Some politicians have criticized Newtown families for doing this work, calling you, pawns or puppets, saying you're being used by Democrats or by the president. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction to that is, do you not think I have my own reasons for doing this? Here, let me show you. Is that not reason enough? Senator Jim Inhofe said that we have no business engaging in the debate, and I called his office and I asked to speak with him. He was too busy to speak with me. I said, here's my cell phone, so call me. I'm still waiting for him to call me. Rand Paul, I think, has the same notion, and if he wants to ask me what my motives are for advocating for a safer culture, he can call me too.
Do you feel like if you could talk to Jim Inhofe that you could change his mind?
I'd like to ask him, I'd just like to ask him, what are you thinking? Why wouldn't I want to do this?
Right. What, in terms of going back to the background checks legislation specifically at the federal level, the way that Joe Manchin has talked about it, he's going to be on The Last Word with Lawrence later tonight, and I was with him in Washington a couple of weekends ago, and he was wearing the Sandy Hook Promise pin, and I talked to him about it. I said, how do you see this, a different result from what just happened? And he said, well, we had majority support, and we only need to move a few senators who voted no and convince them to vote yes. Yeah. What do you think is the kind of argument that could move senators who filibustered to not do that again? What's convincing?
I'm trying to find what that is, because I don't understand why they need to be convinced, unless there's, I don't know, some other force at play. Maybe someone else's. Maybe they haven't read the bill. Maybe they just don't know, because I hear things like, well, this wouldn't have stopped Newtown. We're not trying to stop Newtown. We can't stop Newtown. If we can help other families, if we can help reduce gun violence in this nation by all of these means, it's not just that, it's not just this, it's everything. It's safer gun legislation, it's mental health, it's family values, it's community connectivity, it's school safety, it's just all of that.
Can I ask how you and your family are doing now these many weeks and months out, and how you're coping is sort of changing over time?
Rachel, my wife Jackie and I we cry together every day, and we still try to come to terms with, is this really possible that this actually happened to us and to this community of Newtown? And man, if that's not evidence that if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere. And it can happen anywhere, any day.
Mark Barden, Sandy Hook Promise. I know, actually, I just want to mention that Sandy Hook Promise, the Mother's Day online card that's at the website right now. Can you just explain what that is?
The Sandy Hook Promise grassroots advocacy group came together from community members of Sandy Hook. They are posting on the Sandy Hook Promise website a Mother's Day card to honor the mothers who have lost a child, whose children won't be able to wish their mommies a happy Mother's Day this year. And we're asking folks to please go to the Sandy Hook Promise site and sign the card.
Mark Barden, father of Daniel. This is very difficult. Thanks. We'll be right back.
Thank you.